Okay, so that now we're going to talk about the different types of memory in depth, and we're going to group sensory and short-term memory together. Starting off with sensory memory. So sensory memory is kind of memory for brief senses. It's going to hold a large amount of incoming data, a large amount of information, but for a really short period of time. And when I say short, I mean less than a second. So the way that you can kind of think about sensory memory is it's like taking in everything in your environment, right? We talked about in the sensation and perception lecture, we have everything in our environment available to us to sense. However, that's a lot of information, and a lot of it's unnecessary to really think about or encode, right? So there are a couple different things that your brain does. It can encode visual things. So these are called iconic memories. And it's the reason that you're able to see a sparkler if you've ever, like on the 4th of July or something, lit a sparkler and then made a shape with it. And then you can see that shape for a brief period of time, even though the sparkler's moved. This is because our iconic memory is keeping that light information in our mind for the duration of the shape. You can also get this with auditory information as well, called echoic memories, or just general other haptic information as well, things that you're touching or different sensations. So the way this works is you're taking in all of these informations of things around you. And then our brain is rapidly going to sort this information into important things that we want to advance into short-term memory and unimportant things that we're going to discard and not focus on. So this is a really brief process. It's a large amount of information, but it's really brief. So if your brain decides that it's something important that you're sensing and you want to pay more attention to it, then that information is going to move into short-term memory. So short-term memory is when it only holds a small amount of information, again, for just a limited time, a little bit more than sensory memory. So this is maybe up to about 30 seconds or so. But the way this works is any information that you're focusing your attention on, that you're putting your spotlight on, is information that you're kind of actively thinking about and you're actively using for a short period of time. So what this graph is kind of showing, though, is that that information doesn't stay in your brain forever. So this graph is showing how able a participant was to recall information, for instance, like if he had to memorize a couple letters, and then how long that memory lasted. So for instance, after 3 seconds, if I asked them to recall the letters, they did pretty well. But as time went on, after about 18 seconds, they tanked, right? So this is showing that short-term memory isn't very long. So one of the founders of cognitive psychology was really curious about how much information short-term memory could actually work with. So this man's name was George Miller, and he did a bunch of experiments kind of seeing how large a person's capacity was for information. And he determined that the magic number was what we call 7 plus or minus 2, which means that there are individual differences in how much people can work with in their short-term memory. And it varies from 5 to 9 bits of information. Now, an interesting caveat of this is that bits of information can be just about anything. Bits can be any size. So this might be a digit, a number, or a letter, or a word, or a sentence. It can be a variety of different things. So there are a variety of individual differences in people's memory capacity. Now let's do a little demo to see what your capacity is for short-term memory. So I'm going to show you a series of letters, and I'm going to give you 10 seconds to try to remember them. So pay attention to them, and afterwards I'm going to ask you to write them down. You're good. All right, so here's your first set of letters. All right, see what you can do.